Hey, welcome to the 407th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. Believe it or not, my name is Tony. This is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. My throat is gone. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I sometimes talk about random comic book topics. Currently, I've been looking back at the early issues of The Hobgoblin, the classic Who is a Hobgoblin, exploring that super long mystery in Amazing Spider-Man and other comics. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. It's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting, just like out of nowhere. I'm assuming it's allergies or whatever, or it's just the universe playing evil tricks on me. Like the day after, or pretty much the last day of school, my throat started hurting. I could feel it coming out. I was like, oh no, it's like I still need to record the podcast. And just today, it has been worse. Like if I cough, it's like there's a knife in my throat. So I'm sure you can tell my voice sounds different. Man, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I hate having a sore throat. I am like the biggest wuss when it comes to a sore throat. So we'll see. We'll try to get through this. So I got a little bit of tea, and hopefully I can make it through. So what are we going to talk about today? There's actually 2 movie features. I'm going to try to go faster this episode, but yet here I am rambling. I doubt it's going to be much faster. We've got 2 movie features. The main movie feature is How to Train Your Dragon, so the live, quote-unquote, live-action version of it. And I'll say right now, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I was very skeptical, but you'll hear more about that. The second movie came out a couple weeks. I'm thinking May 30th. I could be wrong about that. Bring Her Back, A24 movie. Those Australian directors, and holy crap, that, jeez, definitely have some things to say about that. I really encourage people to see that if you can handle it. We'll talk more about that. We got another episode of Andor. So episode 9, we're almost in the final arc. So some things going down here. So it was an interesting episode. And we got a Murderbot. So that's it. We only got 2 TV shows this week. And, I know I mentioned, it's like, oh, maybe I'll do, 2 Andors. But with the end of school and with graduation and report cards, I'm still not done with the report cards. I was supposed to be done on Friday. I'm not done with my report cards. Let me just talk about that, because the way we do report cards, we do standard-based gradings. And, like, I have on my report card from like 7th, 8th grade math, whatever, there's like 10 different standards. So I'm having to do that for 10 different, so it's not just math, you got this. It's like I'm doing it like 10 times, and then, putting in comments, and then, are they doing their homework? Are they, participating? Are they bringing materials? And on top of that, then I also have Spanish to do. So there's a lot to do. So only 2 shows, but we got 2 movies, so hopefully that'll kind of balance it out. Let's get into news before I need to take another swig of tea. Nothing really major. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of like Superman stuff, and I'll admit I've been avoiding it. There might have been another clip, or like, I don't know if there's a trailer or a clip. There's a lot of different things. Like, I think there was like one is like, why Lex Luthor hates Superman, or why this, or why you see Superman uses heat vision. But I was like, I don't want to see all that stuff, because the movie's gonna be out. I did see a sound bite, or not a sound bite, but a thing that James Gunn says, like, spoilers won't ruin the movie. So he's not worried about that, because people will start talking about different things. I disagree. Like, knowing that there's all these different characters in a movie, I would much rather watch it like, holy crap, there's so and so, but yeah. So I'm sure we're gonna know everything that's happening. And was it July 11th? So that'll less than a month, right? Yeah. So that's kind of crazy. But let's see. Speaking of James Gunn, he mentioned that he watched a 3D version of the movie, and he's like, wow. So he's like, if you're into 3D, check it out if you can. And I do really enjoy 3D movies, and it's interesting. I think what happens is when I see the movies, because I usually go Thursday nights, and I usually go to a preview showing, and they don't tend to do 3D on previews, I guess, because then after the fact, I'll be like, oh, I could have saw this in 3D. I didn't even know my theater was going to have it in 3D. But yeah, so I guess that's the downside of trying to see the movie early, is I'm missing out on that, because I do enjoy the 3D. There is also, apparently, all fans want Robert Pattinson, Batman, to be in the DCU. And I think James Gunn something like I don't know about all fans. I think that might be kind of stretching things a bit. But he's adamant. He's like, no, that's a separate thing. And it's nothing against Robert Pattinson. I don't think I'm sure that's a separate thing. It's not part of his vision and their vision. So it might be a matter of that. But also, he has different plans, because he wants to do Brave and the Bold or whatever it is, and having Robin, and that it doesn't fit with it. And also, Robert Pattinson, I'm eagerly waiting for the next Batman movie, but that might not be the age that he wants. So I also saw something else that like metahumans or whatever have been around in this DC universe for quite some time. And that's what's going to be interesting about this new DCU. It's not like Marvel, where we were there kind of from day one. Like when Tony Stark makes his Iron Man costume, there really wasn't really a bunch of heroes running around. Ant-Man existed, because obviously, he was with S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 80s, but, they weren't like really public celebrities or whatever you want to call it, public personas. But apparently, because we're not seeing like Superman's origin. He's already Superman, I believe. And especially if you're doing Superman and Lois already. I don't know. Whatever. It'll be interesting just to drop us in the middle. And maybe at this point, because people are familiar with everything, so we don't have to start at, day one. But it's an interesting approach. So we'll see. Hugh Jackman, he posted some like training videos. Like I think it was like more to like highlight his trainer or something like that. But a lot of people are like, Hugh Jackman, why are you training? What does this mean? Are you going to be in Avengers Doomsday? A lot of speculation, but maybe he just wants to be in shape. Who knows? Just because he's training, I mean, maybe, but we'll see. What about? Okay, we have Tangled. It's supposed to be a live-action Tangled movie, but then after Snow White, they're like, well, maybe we should rethink doing all these live-action stuff. But then apparently, I don't know how official this is, but they're saying, well, Tangled, because I think there might have been in some sort of like pre-production or pre-planning, and maybe not much. But now the rumor is that they're waiting to see how live-action Moana does, and which I don't know if I agree with this thinking, but I guess I see where they're coming from. But they're looking at, like, if live-action Moana works, if it's successful, then maybe people want live-action Disney stuff. So then we'll do live-action Tangled. Where I don't agree with that, because while maybe they're all Disney princesses, I think, like, each one is kind of different. And when you look at, like, Moana versus Tangled, you could even have a different audience. And say what you will about live-action Snow White, I've said it, I respect Snow White for being classic, like, was she like the first Disney princess, or was that Cinderella? But, being like totally old school Disney, Snow White, it's not my favorite Disney movie or princess movie, because I feel like the story is just really straightforward, not a whole lot to it. I didn't love it, and maybe because it's kind of dated. It's old. Not that, there's necessarily anything wrong with that. But I just don't think, and when you watch the movie, I don't feel like there's that much of a story to be told. But I'm sure that's not why it didn't do well. I don't know. Speaking of Snow White, so Snow White is now on Disney Plus. Apparently, it's very successful on Disney Plus. It's like the top streaming movie on the service, which it's more people are watching Snow White than Captain America: Brave New World. Say what you will, I still think it got like a raw deal. I thought it was an okay movie. I just didn't care. The evil queen just wants to be the fairest of them all. So that's her motivation. So it's like, okay, that's just weird. But I say the bigger problem was the CG dwarfs. That's what was just really weird. I hesitate about this. Thunderbolts. I saw on Facebook, Rob Liefeld posted another article about this. Because Rob Liefeld, he seems to be, he says he's just posting the facts, but he seems very happy that Thunderbolts is considered a flop, that Marvel is doing well. As we all know, speaking of facts, he is not happy that he and his family were not invited to the Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine after party. And I get where he's coming from, but when you're talking about after party, because you got your big things. After parties tend to be in a smaller place, smaller venue, and so you have your all the people working on a movie, and they're significant. Their little how many people plus ones or plus twos or plus whatever are they allowed? And then you want, because usually when Rob goes, it's him and his wife, and then. He has two sons and a daughter, I believe. It seems like his sons, or at least one of his sons, usually has like a girlfriend going along, so maybe both or whatever. So how many people are you talking? And yeah, so but he's been I don't know, he's blaming like Kevin Feige for that. Did Kevin Feige say no comic writers at the after party? Because he's just really tearing everything apart. But going back to Thunderbolts, so apparently it's made $377 million, and it needed to make $425 million to be profitable. So it's Marvel's losing about $50 million, and it's crazy, and this is where I don't think a lot of people understand it, because I did see another post, it might have been on Threads or something like that, where people are like, "It made all this movie. It's not a failure." It's like, what are you talking about? And all this. But I don't think people necessarily, a lot of people just look at the budget and they're like, "Oh, it's made more than the budget, so it's profitable." But no, because you have to factor in all the promotional costs. So when they go under promotional tours, they're flying everyone out. They're probably, getting private jets. I don't know. And then are they putting them up in hotels? Are they, security at the events, renting out the venue, the theater, whatever? So, and then you have, we need to put ads on TV. We need to put ads on Instagram or ads on YouTube or what, so they have to pay all this money. And, all that's not cheap. So there's a lot of costs that go into it, billboards and bus stop signs. There's all these extra costs, and it's unfortunate because it seems like people like the movies, critics like the movies, I think, and it was a lot of fun, but you just didn't have any top tier, original Avengers characters. And I saw some people saying like, "Oh, no one wants to see a movie with her," and they're talking about Florence Pugh or Yelena, which is ridiculous because Florence Pugh is amazing. She's a phenomenal actress. So, yeah, so it's losing about $50 million. But, what about Blu-ray sales and that? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be editing all these little pauses, because I could be pausing the recording, but I'm going to be taking like swigs of tea in it, but, I'm almost out of tea. So what about Andy Serkis? Spoiler for me, and spoiler for you if you haven't watched the the last 4 or last 3 episodes of Andor. But I was under the impression that Andy Serkis's character was going to be back. And I almost forgot about that. But then when I saw him, I was like, oh, there's still 3 more episodes, so he could still come in this last part. Because where we saw him, he was in, I forget if it was 2 or 3 episodes when they were at that prison, and then they were going to have that prison break. But then they were on an island, and he's like, I can't swim, and he got stuck there, and that's the last that we saw him. But I guess he said something that I don't know if it was Andy Serkis's idea not to do it, but he said that he thought it was best for the character. That he felt that he left his mark, and with that ending, that was fine, that they should leave it at that. But I don't know, who knows. Colin Farrell, he talked about Penguin. Will we get a season 2 to Penguin? And in the beginning, he's like, no, I don't want to do it again. But he hasn't actually stated that he won't do it. And it does sound like he said that he's open to be Penguin again for the Batman 2. But what he said about a season 2, without going into spoilers now, in case you haven't watched it and haven't listened to my coverage of it, basically with the death of a character at the end, with how everything that happened, he's like, it's going to be kind of harder to do a show, with Penguin, based on how things unfolded and like what happened, because it's like it kind of changes a lot. So I kind of get that. I mean, it's going to be a different type of show, and you could still do that. I think it might be a little harder to get people to be invested with that, but who knows? There's a rumor, Hercules. Remember Hercules appeared in the Marvel Universe? I totally forgot about that. He appeared, he was in Thor: Love and Thunder, and I think it was like the end credit or after credits or something like that, where Russell Crowe. I mean, I should watch that movie again. I didn't mind it, but I only saw it once, I think, maybe twice. So Hercules was supposed to do something, and we haven't seen him. So there's a rumor that some sort of project at Marvel is going to be happening, but it's a rumor, so who knows? There's no telling if that's actually going to happen or not. Spaceball 2 is happening. That is definitely happening. Mel Brooks, there's a little clip, with the text to crawl going up talking about, everything. And so Spaceball 2's 2027. So yeah, it's crazy that it's taken this long. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope it's going to be good. I hope it'll be fun. Then the last bit of news is I didn't realize this, but it makes sense. So basically, DC is kind of celebrating its longest running animated show. So the show has been renewed for a 10th season. Do you know what it is? And I'm going to be perfectly honest. I haven't watched this show in a while. I didn't know they were still doing new episodes. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about Teen Titans Go. I really enjoy that show, and there's a lot of episodes that I haven't seen. I had a ton on my DVR, and then I was just like, I can't. My DVR is about to explode. I don't have any room. I was like, oh, they're on HBO Max or whatever it's called now. Going back to that. So I was like, someday I'll watch them, and they're fun because they're just 11 minutes, and they're just so bizarre. The voice actors, I love them. I've been so lucky to have interviewed them so many times because they're just so much fun. And so 10 seasons. And then they're saying, well, Harley Quinn might be giving it a run for its money because I think Harley's coming on season 6. I never finished, if it was season 5, I never finished that Brainiac season. But Teen Titans Go currently has, I think, like 420 episodes. So that's crazy. I really should catch up and start watching more. And you should watch it if you haven't, because the show's hilarious. And hopefully my voice isn't like that hilarious. But that's going to be the news. That makes no sense. That's the news for the week. With comic books at Image, I didn't realize Falling in Love on a Path to Hell. I didn't realize I was still going. I forgot what the last issue. I'm curious with this. I need to get caught up at some point because issue 8 just came out. So I'm really curious to see where the story's going to go. And for some reason, I thought it was like, oh, this is going to be like a 6-issue miniseries, but nope, it's still going. So that's great. Geiger 15 came out. So we got Geiger and Lady Geiger. That's not her name. And we have Joe, G.I. Joe, not G.I. Joe. There's a lot going on here, and I don't want to give anything away, but so, this woman, she's basically, wants to get rid of her power because, she's just like Geiger, and she figures Geiger can take it. And so she kind of manipulated things, and she lied to him, and so, but if he does that, it's going to be a lot for him to deal with. So then what threw me off, because when I saw it on the list, it's like, I hate Fairyland. I was like, oh, that's still going on. I hate Fairyland number 41. I was like, wait, what? I was like, how's that at 41? It is not at 40. It is at 41. So if you look at the cover, it's 41. Because when I was like 41, it's like, are they doing legacy numbering? They are doing legacy numbering. So the cover even says, the fantastic fluffin' 41st issue but 40 is like kind of small and in parentheses, and you see first issue, and then under that in the smaller print, it's like, yes, 21 is now 41 because the relaunch sold more with the new number 1, but now I want to flex that there's 40 issues with legacy numbering. Deal with it. So I'm fine with that. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to reading it. I need to read that. I will read that. And then World Tree 33, number 15. I fell behind on this too, and I'm like super interested because this is such a bizarre comic. Of course, because it's James Tynion writing it, right? Which James is great. But yeah, I forgot what the last issue I read was. I think it was issue 10. Yeah, and I need to get caught up. At Marvel, so we had Avengers Academy. I didn't read this because you look at this cover, and we're getting to the point where I've said this before. Not all these comics are for me. As I'm getting older, that's fine, but I do wonder, and I hope, and I know I've said this before. I hope the younger generation is getting into these comics because with this we have a bunch of the younger new characters. We got Moon Girl on there. She's the only one that I really care about here. Because we have one of the Captain Americas from, I don't even remember what that story arc was called, when they're kind of doing a road trip, Captain America of all states or whatever. And yeah, so I look at this and it's like, I can't, yeah. So I didn't read that. But then what I was interested in, because we also have Spider-Girl, which I'll talk about that. I did pretty much read that, even though I don't want to, but I did. The interesting thing is, so this Avengers Academy, it's rated T+, I believe, if I'm looking at that correctly. Yeah, T+. So it's not like it's for little kids. I mean, it's supposed to be older teens. Also, this issue, I'm not sure how many pages there are on this, but it's $5.99. That's where we come into the problem. It's like, who can afford $5.99 to read this book that has characters that you may not even know who they are? So, I don't know. Then we have Death of the Silver Surfer. And normally when it comes to books like this, I was like, I don't know. And this was only $4.99. So I'm assuming the other one must be a bigger, because this Death of the Silver Surfer, it's like 28, 29, 30. It's only like around 30 pages, something like that. So normally with these, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to read this. But then it's written by Greg Pak. I was like, okay, I really like Greg Pak. He's a super nice guy. He's a really good writer. So I was like, I'll check it out. It's a little weird. It is kind of interesting. And I'm not really sure the time frame, because it almost feels like it's a little more in the future, but then some things kind of feel current. And there's some other people, like, yeah, so there's it's obviously not totally current, because there's like other stuff going on, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. The only thing is, without spoiling things, they allude to another character who is gonna be, I don't know if this he's on the cover for so I'm spoiling that. So this mysterious he person is probably going to appear in the next issue. But currently, they're kind of dead. Is this just out of continuity, or do we just not worry about that since people come back from the dead all the time? I don't know. Let's see, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one. I didn't read that. That's issue 3. Deadpool Wolverine versus Nick Fury. Deadpool Wolverine number 6. I think I did enjoy the first issue and maybe the second issue, but then when it's like, oh, Strife isn't here, I was like, I can't read that. I just don't care about Strife. Eddie Brock Carnage, issue 5. So as much as I hate Carnage, yes, I am still reading this because it's Eddie Brock and because Charles Soule's writing it. It's pretty weird because Eddie is trying to work with Carnage, and Carnage is basically a piece of crap and just wants to kill everyone. And Eddie's not in complete control, and they're kind of like threatening each other, because then at one point Carnage is like, well, if you just died, and I'll just find another body to inhabit. So Eddie doesn't really have a lot of like a leg to stand on or whatever. The only thing that bothers me about this is Misty Knight is just like so intense. And because there's Eddie was on a plane, Eddie and Carnage were on a plane, and the plane went down. Eddie like kind of passed out, or Carnage made him pass out, and all the passengers disappeared. So Carnage did something with them. Did he eat them all? Are they even alive? What's going on? So Eddie's trying to find out. The authority is trying to find out. Misty Knight's been brought in with the FBI, even though she's not part of the FBI. And that's where Misty Knight is like really crossing the line and stuff like that, because she doesn't care about protocol or anything like that, because she's not tied to any agency, which is just kind of weird. But yeah, if it wasn't for Charles Soule writing this, I can't stand Carnage. But it is interesting to see Eddie trying to deal with this, because it's not like reading an issue to Hulk, where Banner is trying to contain the Hulk. This is like so much worse, because Carnage is just a piece of crap. So that makes it an interesting read. Exceptional X-Men number 10. Unfortunately, I did not think this was an exceptional read. I can't stand Mr. Sinister. I know I've said that before, and I was hoping Mr. Sinister was on the way out after Krakoa. He kind of got knocked down several pegs, but then he's back. He's doing all the stuff, and he's doing so much more clone stuff. It's ridiculous. And basically, Emma gets taken into like an astral plane, and she's like at the mercy of Mr. Sinister, because I guess he's got his defenses or whatever. But and then still the other characters, I don't care about them. I don't have an attachment to them, so it's hard for me to just care about what's going on. Then we have Giant Size Amazing Spider-Man number 1, and I'm gonna be honest, and I know I'm being like negative Nancy. No offense if your name is Nancy. I did not like this book. So first story is written by Kevin Smith. I could not. I hated the story. I did not like the story at all, and it's just Kevin Smith is a brilliant writer, and he's a funny writer. He's a funny guy, but it's almost like it's too much. Spider-Man is a funny character. He makes a lot of jokes, but it's like the stuff here is just, it's too extreme. And so he's fighting Mysterio, and it's almost like, is this Mysterio from 20 years ago? Because like the interactions just seems just weird. And then what ends up happening is during this fight, I'm just kind of spoil this, Spider-Man ends up getting a rip on his butt, and Mysterio thinks that's hilarious, even though he's defeated. So Spider-Man has to figure out what to do, and it's just I just did not enjoy it. And also Jay and Silent Bob have a cameo. It's like, okay, yeah, I was so disappointed with this. I just did not care for the story. Yeah. Then we have 616 Day. This is by Al Ewing. Mark Buckingham does the art. And what I don't like about this is just the use of the 616. You know, there's a 616 universe, and we have Eternity. Now, is Eternity the one that gave Storm powers? I forget like who, but Eternity here seems a little weird. And then there's like all the stuff going on. You know, Peter's he's seeing 616 every. You know, he looks at his arm clock. It's 616. It's June 16th. He has to go to somewhere, and it's 600, the 16th Street, whatever, you know. And then he ends up running into I forgot that dude's name. Let's see if I can find it. Win from Gods, Gods. I was kind of interested in that series, but it just feel like it didn't catch on. And because wasn't that Jonathan Hickman? But yeah, so we had, what I was intrigued with that series because it's like, okay, we have these beings that are kind of like on a outer level of Marvel universe, like on the outskirts, and they're doing all the stuff that no one's really aware of. So it's kind of interesting when you look at things like that. But I lost interest in that series. So now he's here. It's like, do we really need him here? So they just do a bunch of stuff, and then it's like the different points in history, the Marvel universe, and it'd be one thing if it was like celebrating, some whatever anniversary of Marvel Comics, but it's just, I don't know, I didn't really care for it. Then we have Rapid Advancements by Chip Zdarsky, and Cafu does the art. This is a story that introduces a character is going to change the future of the Marvel universe, and it's like, who really said that? Was it Chip Zdarsky? I don't think it was Chip Zdarsky that said that. Maybe it was him, but it's like, I don't see how. Maybe something, now that we've been introduced to this character, we'll see, but yeah. So we get a new character, and I won't spoil what the character does because, yeah, it's just, I was not impressed. I love Chip Zdarsky's writing, but yeah. And then the last story, I think, was Prelude to New Dimensions, Mitsuwasu Sakai with Gerardo Sandoval. And this is kind of like Spider-Verse. We got, I think that, is it Kid Venom? And so I saw Kid Venom, oh no, to be continued in Kid Venom team up coming in 2026. 2026? Yeah, so I was not happy with that issue. Then we have Giant Size Dark Phoenix Saga. This is continuing Ms. Marvel's trip through time because of Legion, and I'm not a Legion fan. Yeah, Ms. Marvel went back to Giant Size X-Men time when they go to the Krakoa for the first time, and she's there. So it's like obviously they're messing with history. So now she's here with the time when Jean becomes Phoenix, and it's just throwing everything off. And I don't remember where this is going to continue. See if I can find it. But it's just, I just didn't care for it. Did I finish reading this? I'm looking at the last couple of pages. Maybe I didn't finish reading this. I must have. But yeah, maybe that's the end of the story. No, it's not. Oh, that's why I didn't finish it. Okay. I read the end of the story, and then it's, spoiler, it's going to go into Giant Size Age of Apocalypse #1. But then after that, there's there's like 5 pages of like Phoenix. So I don't know, I didn't read that. Oh my goodness. So I just paused it there because I felt a sneeze coming up. Oh, that sneeze. I like, again, it's like literal like knife in my throat. Oh my God. Oh, that hurts so bad. We got Magic #6. I wish I liked the story more. I don't know if it's continuing the story, but I read the first issue and I think the second issue, and I just couldn't get into it. I believe Madeline Pryor is in this, so I don't know if it's continuing that same story. Maybe I should check it out. There is a Marvel United #1 Pride Special. I didn't read that. Marvel Rivals Ignite. I know nothing about this. It's some sort of game, right? I don't even know Yeah, I don't even know what's going on here, and I don't know how cool it is. All I know is there's like some snow character, because I still, believe it or not, I'm playing Marvel Puzzle Quest, and they brought it. I saw like just a different version of Namor, like a different skin. I'm like, what's going on? New Avengers #1. I feel I'm starting to get lightheaded. I'm getting stuffed up, so I might start getting a little goofier. New Avengers. So this is by Sam Humphries. I really like Sam Humphries. I mean, I enjoy his writing. This one gets a little weird. Let's see. Who's the artist on this? It's Tom Lima. And so we starts off with Bucky, and then there's Black Widow. They got their history. At first, like, their interactions, like, wait, they saw each other not too long ago. That's kind of weird. But then there are some callbacks to some recent things, and I was like, oh, that's great that they got that continuity. And there's also stuff, because you see on the cover, we got Laura Kinney, Wolverine. So it's kind of nice that like, I can't remember last time Sam Humphries wrote Marvel, and I don't know what he's been doing. He's been doing something, but I like that he's on top of it, and I think that's great, because it always drives me nuts when here's a new book, and then it's like it's blatantly obvious that the writer doesn't know what happened just recently, and whether and I don't expect writers to keep up with everything, because how can you? Yeah, I can barely keep up with everything. They're busy doing their things, but it should be like up to the editor. The editor needs to be like, okay, you're using this character, this character, this character. They just did this. It should be the editor's job to make sure it all flows. And maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I nitpick too much, but I think it's important. As far as this issue, it's kind of funny, because Bucky's like very adamant. It's like, this is not a team. We're not a team. Not a team. They end up facing someone, which it's an interesting choice, and I don't even want to say. I'm glad they went with this character and not another character that I mentioned in one of the other books that I said I didn't like. If you'll know if you read this. New Champions. No. Well, see, this is another one. This is rated teen. I don't know. I did see online, or like a page where Moon Knight sees this Moon Squire, and he's like, "Why are you wearing that?" or something like that. And I don't know if there's anything more came out of that, but it seems weird. These kids, like, I'm gonna make a costume based off of some other hero, even though there's no association. And by doing that, it's like you're kind of implying that the adult hero character approved of you, but they're just doing it. And maybe they don't have to, but I don't know. One World Under Doom, #5. Basically, Doom is fighting with the Avengers. Doom has got this fight going on with Dormammu, and the Avengers kind of have no choice but to fight with them. And he likes that, because then it's like, the Avengers are fighting for me, whatever. And they're like, no, we're not fighting for you, but because it's Dormammu, and it's like, and then I will say one character is like, maybe Doom's right. Maybe what he's doing isn't a bad thing, because there's things are getting taken care of in the world, and it's not Tony Stark, because Tony Stark's like, are you crazy? So some interesting argument. Phoenix #12 came out. I kind of skimmed through this. I'm curious about the stuff with Jean's sister, but I kind of couldn't really get into it, so I'm not really sure what's going on. And then on the last page, it's like, wait, what? So we're going to have an interesting next issue confrontation. Runaways #1. Oh, Runaways is back, which I was like, I didn't even realize it was coming out. I totally missed it. I must have missed like any press releases or anything. So it's a One World Under Doom, which makes sense because they got Doombot as one of their members. But what I'm happy about is that Rainbow Rowell is writing it, because she was the last writer as far as I know. And they kind of it's kind of, oh man, I'm getting so stuffed up. But they're kind of saying it's like 2 months kind of since the last issue, which it's been more than 2 months. I don't know how much real time it would be, but there's just more Doom stuff. Okay, then we got new Spider-Girl, and Spider-Girl #1. This is another book for kids. I don't know how old she is, because she appeared in Spider-Boy, and Spider-Boy is supposed to be like 10 years old. I think she might be close to that same age. This book is rated T. It's a $5.99 book. I don't know. And this is the other weird thing is, like, she's not a spider character. We saw her origin. She's a mutant, and she kind of has, like, she can mimic powers type of thing, sort of like Taskmaster, but a different approach, different level or whatever. And she was training with Bullseye. So it's just, yeah. And apparently, I don't know if I missed, maybe I didn't read it, but her and Bullseye had a falling out, which is probably good, because that would make her totally evil. So maybe there's a chance for her to redeem herself. Then we had Star Wars #2. So this is taking place after, like, Return of the Jedi, and the Leia and Mon, they're trying to get I can't think of it, like star systems or whatever, to join the New Republic, and some of them are like dead set against it, because we saw it in the first issues. It's kind of interesting because they're looking at, like, you're no better than what the Empire was doing, so why should we pledge allegiance to you, type of thing. And then Luke's out on a mission, and then he takes off because he hears something. So he's on a search for a Jedi artifact, because at first he's like, wait, who? And I don't remember a name being mentioned, but he's going off to look for something. And it's written by Alex Segura, who has done he's written Star Wars books. I know he wrote, like, a Poe Dameron book, and he's done other stuff, so this is good. Phil Noto's doing the art, so you should definitely be checking that out. Then I haven't been reading Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I'm assuming this is just an adaptation, which is weird that they're doing this so far after the fact. How long has it been since the movie came out? And it's one thing if you're gonna give us new tidbits or anything, but it just, I don't know, seems kind of weird. So I don't know if I'm just missing something. Then we had Ultimate Black Panther #17. I stopped reading that, and Ultimate X-Men #16. I'd like to catch up on that sometime, because I just love Peach Momoko's art. I mean, it's I don't know. There's, dare I say, adorable. I mean, there's something about it, and yeah, someday. At DC, we had Ultimate Batman #9. Oh man, and look who's on the cover. It's Ultimate Bane. My first thought was, I don't know if Absolute Batman is ready to take on Absolute. Did I say Absolute Batman? I don't know when I said the title. I don't know if Absolute Batman is ready to take on Absolute Bane. And it sounds silly for me to say it that way. But, and the reason I say that is because this Batman, he's still relatively new. He hasn't been active that long. And also, when you think about it, it's like, who has he really fought? He fought those masked people. He had a run-in with Mr. Freeze, sort of. So it's like, I don't know if he's really ready for Bane. And because, this Bane is, like, massive. Obviously, Batman is massive, too. But this is, like, a different level. So, and there's some other things going on. One thing that was interesting, because I think I saw something, like, they met someone, I saw somewhere, I don't know if it was on Twitter or something, like, where, like, something about Dick Grayson in this issue, and, like, he doesn't like Batman or something, he has some issue with him, and you see, like, a little, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but everything in this universe is completely different, so that's fine. And then, there's stuff with Commissioner Gordon and with Martha, and that I just think the really weird thing is how Batman has a lot of people that he's confided in, and the fact that they're like his rogues gallery. So, who is he going to be fighting later? Then there is Action Comics 1087, and so this is written by Mark Waid, and it's kind of a flashback story where it's showing us Superboy, that Clark was Superboy in Smallville. So I'm curious why DC's doing this. They're basically retconning stuff, and we don't even have like a big event to justify this. Now all of a sudden they're saying, Superman or Clark was Superboy. I think that's just crazy. It worked back then because in the 50s no one really thought about it, but nowadays you're looking at it's like, okay, so Clark and Superboy were both from Smallville. They both look alike. That's kind of weird. It was one thing because I don't know if it was John Byrne, whatever, said that it's like, Superboy actually lived with Clark and Ma and Pa, so he kind of knew him. So you could kind of justify it like that. I don't know. And then I don't know if they said it, then it was Clark that broke the Superman scoop, that it wasn't Lois, so basically Clark cheated to get a job at a Daily Planet by interviewing himself. Is that ethical? I don't know. But the other thing also is with Superboy, it's like right off the bat, there's like, bam, picture of Superboy right there. It looks just like Clark, because Clark doesn't wear glasses back then because he had no reason to in Smallville. And that was one of the things that always bothered me about the Smallville show, is that he never wore glasses. And I'm like, okay, he's still in high school, but I think a lot of people, their face doesn't change that much from high school to their 20s or 30s or whatever. If you're saying from high school to, I guess if I look at some of my high school pictures, there's some differences, but I think people would be able to see the resemblance. I just thought it was weird that, Clark is doing all this stuff, and there was an episode early on where he could have had glasses. He went blind. There was like something, and he had to wear glasses for a little bit, and then they just threw it out because whoever didn't want Tom Welling to wear glasses. But whatever. Suspension of disbelief. I guess I'm arguing that glasses is the big secret thing, but it's more than that. It's the hair and the slouching, the clothes. But whatever. Then we have Supergirl number 2. So Supergirl went back, quote unquote, home to the Danvers, and she was like, wait, what's going on? There's another Supergirl in this town. And she's really confused. No one knew who she was and all this. We find out what's the story, like what's going on. So, okay. I'm fine with that. Trinity, daughter of Wonder Woman. I really like the idea of this character. And there's some cute moments because, we do see like young Trinity. And, she is very adorable. But I don't know. We'll see where this. I don't know. There may be like a plan, like a goal for this, like what they're trying to do. I don't know. So if that's the point, okay. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm not. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I won't spoil anything. So there's a DC versus Vampires World War V. I wish I wasn't behind in this because I enjoyed that, but I have no idea what's going on. I don't think I did. I did read some more. Okay, we had Green Lantern Corps number 5. I didn't read that. I'm on the fence with this. That really bothers me because I've always loved Green Lanterns, and I'm glad the Green Lantern Corps is back on their own. It's the United Nations of Planets. I did not care for that, but I'm struggling to get into this. Batman and Robin 22. I didn't read this. I don't know if this is still dealing with that memento or whatever. I don't even know. There's Batman Dark Patterns number 7, which is, I need someone to tell me if I should be reading that. I'm sure Dan Waters will probably say yes, he should be. Aquaman number 6, man, I have no idea what's going on in that series. Then there is Robin and Batman, Jason Todd number 1. So I did read this. there's also Fire and Ice book. I'll say, I didn't read that, but Robin and Batman. I mean, Dustin DeWinn's. It's Jeff Lemire and Dustin DeWinn. Dustin's art is just the watercolors, and it's really something to see. And so we get this like flashback story. We're seeing Jason Todd at the beginning, and it's a little hard to not really hard, but it's kind of tough because Jason is just so messed up, and he's like just so angry, and so it's hard to see. He's just like on this path of destruction, and Bruce is trying to help him, Alfred's trying to help him, but it's like, yeah. So, he's so volatile, and it's just unfortunate because I do like Jason Todd as a character, but I just it's you feel for him. But this is a great looking book, and the fact that it's only $4.99. I mean, that I think the art alone, but the story's interesting to see this kind of different take on it. And that is it. That's all the comics that I've read. Not very many. That's comics for the week. All right, Star Wars Andor, Season 2, Episode 9. I'm only at Episode 9. Welcome to the Rebellion. So I'm just going to go into it. This one, well, I'm lying. I'm not going to go right into it. This episode was good. It's important. It's crucial. I'm so glad I'm sticking with this, even though it's taken me forever, and I apologize if that's a problem. But it's amazing seeing the little steps in what we already know, just like the little details of how just the beginning of the rebellion. This episode is called "Welcome to the Rebellion," and it's just really great seeing the formation of everything and just the backstory, like the final, almost final days of the Senate, before it was disbanded and all that stuff. So I'm really enjoying this. All right, at the Senate building, Bail Organa he sees there's a bunch of commotion going on, so he or someone tells him that Senator Orrin, the dude from Gorman, he's being arrested. Other senators are outraged, because there's stormtroopers in the Senate. And Orrin's like, no warrant, no charges. Like, this is a Senate chamber. He's like, I have every right to be here. He's like, well, no one helped me. He's like, Gorman's being slaughtered. It's my people today and yours tomorrow. He's like, remember this day. Remember Gorman. And Montha walks up to the Bail. She's like, have you seen the numbers? Like, the Gorman dead? It's beyond belief. And he tells her not to put on the Imperial News. She says, she's seen it. It's insane. Bale's like, the winner writes the story, but Mon says that they haven't won yet. And she's like, I need to make a speech tomorrow. And he's like, they'll never let you take the floor. And she's like, well, I've seen you work miracles before. He's like, something has to be done. It's like, I can't take it anymore. She's like, and yes, I know there's no telling what the Emperor's capable of at this point. Anything is possible, but they've gone too far, and we all know it. It's like, we need to speak out. We need to stand up and speak the truth. And then we need to leave, both of us. We need an exit plan, and we need to make it now while we still have the time. Bale's like, we have a plan. It's like, that's not the issue. She's like, then what is? He's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. She's like, are you telling me to be silent? And he's like, it's not like that. She's like, we talked about this. She's like, what might happen? If this isn't the limit, then what is? He's like, it's not so easy. And she's like, compared to what? Nothing we will ever do will be as hard as hiding all these years. And he's like, Mon, it's not that at all. It's me. It's like, I have to stay. We have to buy time. It's like, we're not ready. Yavin isn't ready. It's like, we need to solve. But you're right. Something needs to be said, and Yavin needs your leadership. I just can't go with you. Not yet. And she's like, you'd be a hostage. And he's like, let's hope not. Work on that speech and be very careful. Senator Tan found a listening device in her office, and tell no one. Be ready to leave the moment you're done, and be very careful. So then Clea says to Andor that they're calling an early session at the Senate. If Mon speaks, they need to be ready. So they're keeping Andor as a journalist, Ronnie Gouge, Mid-Rim Network. He's coming straight from the Gorman massacre to cover the political fallout. There's a Senate catering entrance that they like. She's making a credential that'll work inside. It's kind of like a 3D printer or something like that. So they'll scan for weapons at the entrance. And she's like, this credential is a surface pass. It's good all season. Andor's like, I won't be needing it. He's like, I'm not coming back. I'm done after this. And she's like, are you? And she scoffs. Not Andor this time, but she scoffs. And she's like, what does that mean? Done. Done with what? With us? With all of it? And Andor's like, he'll know what it means. She's like, so it's a private thing, something I wouldn't understand? He's like, I didn't say that. And she's like, can I guess? You're tired. It's too much. It's too hard. You were a witness to the Gorman massacre. One would think that there'd be no stopping you. The senator you'll be saving is about to risk everything, putting a voice to the atrocity that you just survived. Tell her you're done. He's like, when have I not come through? He's like, I need to start making my own decisions. And Clay is like, I thought that's what we're fighting for. And she said, clean yourself up. It's like, I'll find you some clothes. And I just love like the kind of like attitude, the sass that she has. So she leaves the room and he sits there like with his head in his hands. In Mon's office, this other dude like scans and he's what's his name? Erskine. He finds a listening device and he shows it to her. She like gently sits it on her desk. She lifts something heavy. She smashes it. And I was like, okay, that's not a good idea because it immediately registers as going down. There's this one dude sitting like in this big imperial room with like headphones, and there's like a flatline tone. So it's like one thing. It's like, okay, it's there, so you tiptoe around or you feed false information. But now by destroying it, she's basically saying, yes, I know that there's a listening device. So the Erskine, the dude with Mon, he whispers that he has to keep looking so they can be sure that there's no other devices. She whispers that she has to practice speech, and he's like, not here. He's like, not yet. He's like, get some air, go to the plaza. So then the guy listening, he tells his supervisor or, someone checking his channels or something like that, to try to fine tune some things. She finally says that it's not on their end. And he's like, so it just went dead? At the plaza, Mon's like kind of whispering, practicing her speech. It's late, it's kind of empty. And someone starts walking towards her. It's Luthen. And she's like, how'd you know I'd be here? And he's like, Erskine Samaj works for him. And he's like, he wanted to tell you, he wanted to tell her himself. And she's like kind of surprised. She's like, all this time? Luthen's like, he's protected you in ways that you'll never, know. And she's like, well, isn't that wonderfully cryptic? She's like, who else am I trusting that I shouldn't? It's like, everyone? It's like, well, let me guess. In the end, it's only you that I can trust. Is that it? And Luthen's like, tonight, that's true. And she's like, is it? He's like, Bail Organa's team is corrupted. And she's like, which team is that? He's like, the one that's taking you to Yavin after your speech. He's like, I don't know everything, Mon, but I know what I owe you. And she's like, you don't care about me. You're just terrified what'll happen if I get arrested. And Luthen's like, you need to think clearly. And she's like, be careful what you ask for. So Luthen's like, you can't leave with Bail's people, and you can't tell anyone what I've just told you. And she's like, do you remember Tay Kolma, the banker, my childhood friend? And Luthen's like, another false savior. She's like, I often think of Tay Kolma, how quickly you decided he was a risk, how quickly all that happened. And Luthen's like, if you go with Bail's plan, you'll be in a cell before sunset. And she's like, it makes me quite a risk, doesn't it? Right now, I'm more afraid of you than anything. And Luthen's like, we've all been bent by secrecy, haven't we? And I'm sorry about Erskine, but what I'm telling you about Bail is true. She starts to leave, and he puts his hand on her arm to stop her, and she's like, don't you dare. So Luthen's like, what I'm telling you cannot be shared. I'm sending someone I trust, someone I know I can trust. You'll ask if he's alone, and he will say, I have friends everywhere. And then he like repeats it, I have friends everywhere. And he's like, those words. And she just leaves. So the dude listening, he tells that high-ranking Imperial dude, Legrat, I forget his name, about Senator Mothma's driver who's working for them, that he's been calling in. So apparently she's not left the Senate tonight. And the guy's like, is that unusual? And he seems to think so. So, because they were told to pay particular attention to the Senate for the next few days, given the situation in Gorman. So he tells them about the listening device, that there's being no issue on their ends. He shows on a display all the senators that have been approved for increased surveillance, and Senator Mothma's, her listening thing has gone dead. And he's like, plus the driver, it seems worth mentioning. Mon enters her office. She asks Erskine if they're free to speak, and he says he searched everything. And she's like, I'm not sure I felt this betrayed in my life. And I've, like her breath is like trembling, had some experience. When did you start? And he's like, after the wedding. And she's like, 2 years. And she like chuckles. She's like, that's obscene. He's like, I've tried to protect you. And she's like, and you failed. he's like, I'm sorry you feel that way. And she's like, you're dismissed immediately. And her voice is like trembling again. And he's just like, it's been an honor. And he leaves. The next day, Andor meets with Luthen. Luthen says that, he wasn't sure that Andor would come. And he asks about Willman. And Andor's like, there was someone that he needed to find. So then Clea interrupts. She's like, we have an immediate problem. And she asks Luthen if he's talked to Mothma. What are they doing? Luthen says that he shouldn't have told her about Erskine. And Clea asks if is she speaking or not. Luthen's like, I don't know. And Clea says that somebody knows, and she walks away. She's like, I have no time for this. So Clea calls Erskine over a comm, asking, where is he? And he says, walking to the Senate. So he tells her that he's out, that she threw him out. And Clea doesn't care. She just asks if she's going through with it, if she can do the speech. Erskine tells her to ask Luthen, because he didn't have much of a conversation with her. Andor with Luthen's like, we get her out. She goes to Yavin and not you. And Luthen's like, no Yavin for me. And Andor's like, there's still some bridges you haven't burned? Luthen's like, we'll take care of that today. Andor's like, you stayed here long enough. And he's like, I'm not finished yet. And Andor's like, they're going to find you, Luthen. And Luthen's like, you act as if we had a choice. Eventually, they'll hang us both, won't they? We set that course the first time we met. And Andor's like, speak for yourself. Luthen's like, you see no truth in that? I make my own decisions. And Luthen's like, is that what you've been doing? Sometimes I wonder. You appeared when I needed you. Aldhani, Narkina, Ferrex, Sinar, Minaru, Gorman. And here we are. Clea returns. And she's like, she threw him out. We don't know if she's speaking, what she'll say, or how they'll react. All we know about Bail Organa's team is that there's something wrong. It's hardly ideal. There's no choice but to try. It's like, we have nothing. He's never even been inside. And she's like, Erskine knows the building. And Luthen's like putting a lot of faith in Erskine. And then she's like, Mothma knows the building. And he's like, and doesn't trust me and doesn't know him. Bale's people might get there already. And then Andor's like, and if she gets arrested? Clea's like, it all comes down. So, what's this? Legrat? I think that's the Imperial dude's name. He's the high-ranking ISB guy. He calls Cloris, Mon's driver, over to comms, and he asks him if he's located Senator Mothma. So Cloris says that she's been in there all night, and Legrat says that, or she's gone home without him, and Cloris says, not without letting him know, because that's not like her, and so, he doubts that she would do that. Later, Erskine seems to be in a hurry at the Senate building. People have to show their ID badges to get, I think they get them scanned or something like that. Camera focuses on this. It's weird. Whereas we're watching, there's this man and this woman. I'm like, who are these people? So they're part of Bale's team. We see them come in separate, not together. Andor shows a dude at a less busier check-in, his Rooney Gouge badge. The guy questions his name or something like that. And he's like, did someone call this in? And Andor's like, Mid-Rim Network. And the guy's like, I see that. I don't have a bay assigned to you. So I think it's a bay where he would set up as press. So the dude kind of looks behind him. He's like, you'll have to float this morning. Best I can do. Which is probably better for Andor. So then these two men and a woman meet up. So the lady is Beska. And then there's Sharvel and Selko. So these are the three people that are supposed to escort Mon Mothma off of Coruscant. So they discuss after her speech, and then they're going to meet up and take her or something like that. So then this dude goes up to Legrat and says that there's rumors that prominent senators may try to challenge Imperial narrative on Gorman. Legrat says that he's just been told that the morning agenda is set. The chair has no intention of letting any of them take the floor. Mon is pacing a little in the hall. Bale comes up to her. She says that the day has finally come, and he says that she doesn't have to do this. And she's like, if you're brave enough to stay, I should be brave enough to go. So Bale's like, there'll be an escort team waiting, a team of 3. You'll need to leave the moment you're done. It's like, they'll be at gate 9. Get there. Do what they tell you. And she stops him as he starts to leave. And she's like, do you trust them? And he's like, of course. And she's like, do you know them? And Bale's like, personally, no, I can't. It's not safe. He's like, don't worry about me. Once I get you started, I'll have my head down. And he like takes her hand. And he's like, next year in Yavin. And she's like, take care of yourself, Bale. And he's like, we do what we can. He's like, and then this is the part that bothers me. He's like, tear the poop out of this place. But he doesn't say poop. He says it's around the corner word. But they don't use that in Star Wars. They don't have curse words. And they'll say hell, which I don't know why Han Solo is saying, I'll see you in hell when he's on Hoth. It's like, do they have hell, the concept of hell? But I feel like, it's like Battlestar Galactica, where they say frack. I don't think, whatever. The Oathkeeper calls the Senate to the chamber. Andor's like standing around since, he doesn't have a set location go. Erskine actually comes and stands next to him. And he's like looking at him out. Erskine's like, you'd think it'd be a full today. He's like, they call an early session when, they want to keep the numbers down. Then he takes a better look at Andor. He's like, have we met? And Andor's like, it's possible. He's like, I have friends everywhere. And as soon as he says that, Erskine like walks away. So because he knows who he is. In the Senate, Senator Nico is talking, mentions the martyrs who gave everything on the brutal streets of Gorman. We'll see Bail Organa's people are like walking somewhere. Erskine and Andor, they're going off together, and there's this line at a gate. So he's like, take this, gives him like a badge. He's like, it's the only way in. He's like, I'm the last person that she wants to see. So Mon waits. Two of Bale's people, Beska and I forgot the other guy's name, whatever. They go in this room to get like some weapons, some blasters. Erskine and Andor continue moving. Another senator is speaking. So then at the ISB, whatever, the dude that goes up to Legrat, he goes up to him again. He says that Supervisor Young's agents is calling from the Senate, and she says it's urgent. So who's the agent? It's Beska. So the woman that is on Bale's team to take Mon away, she's actually working for the Imperials. So she says hello, but then Legret asks her to identify herself. And then the other dude, Charvel, I think that was his name, he was like back in the weapons room getting some stuff. He comes up to her, and then she like cuts the call, and Charvel's like, he's like, wait, what are you doing? He's like, who are you talking to? And she's like, it was work. And then he's like, show me that. And she holds her comm out and then whacks him in the head with something nearby. She grabs a blaster out of his hand, and she hits him in the throat with it. He like coughs and goes down, and then pew, she shoots him. So now one of Mon's real people one of Bale's people is really down. So there's only the other dude. Then a senator from Hody speaks, and she's like, as a senior senator, she would like to yield a moment of her time to the senior senator of Alderaan, who has a point of order to address. And we see Erskine and Andor, they're still walking. Bale prepares to speak. Beska tells, Felzanis, I think his name was. He's the guy that's at the ISB reporting to Legrat. She says that she needs instructions. He passes the call over to Legret. So Bale says, I know there is a strict agenda this morning, but as per the latest Imperial ruling on Senate protocols, I'd like to invoke Article 17-252, which is, as you may recall, it was proposed directly by the Emperor's Council. It specifically states that a senior senator, in the case of an emergency, may yield the floor freely without interruption to another senior senator. Now, Senator Carlu spoke so passionately about the Imperial martyrs from yesterday's events in Gorman. I listened very carefully, as did you all. And he clearly and repeatedly used the word emergency. As there's been no objection to this description from the floor, I am invoking Article 17-252 and yielding the floor to the senior senator from Chandrilla. That's Mon. And so Beska's on the move now. She's headed towards where outside Mon's entrance to the Senate. Legrat, he says to shut down the Senate feed. He's like, Imperial authority, shut it down. Mon steps into her like senator disc thing. It moves, floats over to towards the center, and she begins her speech. Fellow senators, friends, colleagues, allies, adversaries, I stand before you this morning with a heavy heart. I spent my life in this chamber. I came here as a child. I realize I have almost no memories that predate my arrival. We see Andor, he's heading to the door also. And so she's like, and few bonds of affection that cleave so tightly. Through these many years, I believe I have served my constituents honorably and upheld our code of conduct. Beskha comes up to Sulk, the third dude on Bale's team, and she's like, where's the other guy? And Sulk's like, I thought he was with you. She says that he said to meet with Sulk. Erskine's like kind of watching them from the other side of the hall. Mon continues, this chamber is a cauldron of opinions, and we've certainly all had our patience and tempers tested in pursuit of our ideals. Disagree as we might, I am hopeful that those of you who know me will vouch for my credibility in the days to come. I stand this morning with a difficult message. I believe we are in crisis. Legrat's like, what are you doing? He's like, shut it down. But it's still going. And Mon's like, the distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. So there's this guy like trying to get into the room to cut the feed, but the door is locked. And it was apparently broken before, so these two workers said, it's like, yeah, we fixed it yesterday. And he's about to flip out because, he is supposed to enter a code, but he doesn't know it, and he can't cut the feed. So Mon's like, of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. So Claris, her driver, he's like listening, and Mon's like, when truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. Legrat's like, I don't care if you have to cut the power to the whole chamber. Get her off the air. Mon's like, she continues, the chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Gorman Plaza. So then at this point, some senators start shouting. I don't know if they don't agree with her or like what's going on. Because what she's saying is, not everyone is aware of what actually happened. And she's like, what took place yesterday, what happened yesterday on Gorman was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber. And the monster screaming the loudest, the monster we've helped create, the monster who will come for all of us soon enough, is Emperor Palpatine. And then the dude, I think he finally shuts the power off. But senators are jeering, and then her disc thing descends. Clea tells Luthen that they shut her broadcast. Luthen's like, where's Cassian? And Erskine tells him that the Cassian went up. Clea says that, they can't wait there much longer. Mon exits, and Andor's right there. He's like, Senator. And she's like walking with her he's walking with her down the hall. She's like, I can't speak right now. And Andor's like, I was in Gorman yesterday. I saw everything in the plaza. And Mon's like, I made my statement. And he's like, no, we need to speak. I have friends everywhere. And she turns and looks at him. So Legrat tells the other dude, he's like, detain immediately. She does not leave that building. In the elevator, Andor's like, your cousin Vel is a friend. And she's like, anyone could say that. And Andor's like, we're the last survivors on the raid of Aldhani. I see her in Yavin. I live there. I know Luthen can be hard. But if he's right about this, you have no choice but to come with me. So the elevator approaches the floor and is about to open. He's like, just keep walking. I'll be right behind you. So there are other journalists outside the elevator area. They want to talk to her after her speech. Erskine moves forward, and Andor tries clearing a path. He's like, let her through, let her through. Beskha comes up to them and is like, excuse us, the senator has a very important meeting to get to. And she's like, who are you? And Beskha's like, we're here to help you. And Erskine's like, she doesn't need your help. And he moves forward. Then Beskha pulls out a blaster and waves it around. Like, stand down, everyone. Andor stands in front of Mon to shield her. Then Sulk asks Beskha, she's like, what are you doing? And she tells him to shut up. And she's like, back off. This is an ISB authorized arrest. Call your supervisor now. She says this guard at the door. And to Andor, she's like, back away. That means you. Erskine points at Beskha and yells, she's a rebel spy. And she points a blaster at him, and she's like, no. And Andor pulls out his blaster and shoots her. Pew! Everyone dives to the floor. Erskine grabs Beskha's blaster and points it at Sulk, who raises arms. And Andor's like, anyone else? Then Andor sticks his blaster in Sulk's face. Who are you? And he's like, nobody. He's like, we just met, I swear. To Mon, he's like, we have no time to figure this out. Erskine agrees. He tells them to go. He's like, I'll get there. And Andor's like, we need 3 minutes. And Sulko yells, he's like, I'm not ISB. Andor tells him to shut up. He's like, get down. So Erskine says that, he's like, I got this, go. So Andor tells Mon, he's like, don't run. And she's like, you killed that woman. And he takes off his long coat. He's like, put this on. We need to get to the rear loading dock. It's like, there's a ride waiting for us. She's like, I'm not sure I can do this. And Andor, name of the episode, Welcome to the Rebellion. And she's like, what? He's like, the loading dock. Stormtroopers and other guards head over, an alarm's going off. Andor and Mon, they go down this walkway. They can see stormtroopers outside. He's like, they're shutting down the building. And then Mon's like, forget the loading dock. So they start jogging the opposite direction. They go down like some stairs. So an agent tells Legrat someone is asking to evacuate the building. And he yells, he's like, no, seal it up. Lock it down. Where's Young's agent? Then the one dude says, they're at gate 9. They killed Young's agent. So Mon and Andor, they're going down and down. There's like down the stairs, it's like spiral stairs. Cloris is still sitting in Mon's car, and then someone barks that he was told to stand by, and he's like, I am. He's like, I was just, and then he gets cut off, and he's told to call when he has something to report. So he's like antsy. I don't know if he just wants to do something or if he wants to be important. I don't know. And he's just sitting in the car, and he looks at a blaster next to him on the seat. Luthen grumbles, like, where are they? Clay is like, they have to get back to the gallery. Luthen's like they're coming down here. She says, she has to warn them. She says that, she's like, I'll find them. She says she's trying, but they'll have to be ready. Mon and Andor, they go down this like back hallway. Cloris decides to leave the vehicle and try to figure out what's going on. So he goes up these like big stairs like outside. Mon and Andor, they make it outside. And then she sees him. She's like, that's my driver. And Andor's like, would he help? And she's like, no. He's in the ISB plant. So then Andor's like, what's his name? And she's like, what? He's like, name. She's like, Cloris. So then Andor yells out, Cloris. Mon's like, what are you doing? And Andor's like, we found her. And the dude's like, and who are you? Pew! Mon just like gasps and freezes. And he's like, hey, look at me. Hey. He's like, look at me. Give me your hand. So they start running. They go down the stairs. Bale sits in the Senate pod because I think I don't know if they're all locked in there or what. Legrat gets a call from some high-ranking dude. So he prepares to take it. Andor gives, he's driving Mon's vehicle, and she's just like sitting in the back. She's like kind of like trying not to freak out after everything's going on. And Yavin, several people are gathered inside his structure. Vel's like looking over all these blasters, and she picks one up. She's like, who belongs to this? And this dude raises his hand. He's like, I think that's mine. Andor and Mon, they arrive somewhere. They walk up to this door. He like knocks 3 times, and he's like 3 times and 3 times. So it's probably like a code. Erskine opens the door. It's like, wait, how did he get there before them? So they look at each other, Mon and Erskine, and then he's like, asks her if she's all right. Andor, like, I think he drinks some water. Clea's like, I can't believe you made it. She's like, you must be exhausted. And he looks at her. He's like, is he back there? So at first I thought he was talking about Luthen, but no, he goes back. You hear like some strained breathing. I was like, wait, did something happen to Luthen? No, it's Willman. He's lying in a bed. Drina's like sitting on his bedside. And Will's like, made it out. Drina saved the day. And she's like, he needs a real doctor. Mon asks Clea about Luthen, and Clea says that he's safe. He knows Mon made it back there. Andor tells Will he's like almost home. He goes back to the main room. Clea tells him that he has to leave right away. Andor, he scoffs. Like, so she may need a few minutes to catch her breath. And Clea's like, she's not going with you. And Erskine like says that there's a ship waiting. They want her to make a speech. They want her coming in with a Yavin escort. Clea's like, they want to rewrite the story. And Andor's like, what does Luthen want? And she's like, he wants Willman with a doctor. Andor's like, get him ready. So he sets his blaster down. He gets another drink. Mon turns to him. She's like, been watching him. She's like, you know this place. And he like chuckles. He's like, yeah, I lived here once. And Mon's like, I'm not sure how to thank you. And he walks closer to her. He's like, make it worth it. So this big ship lands on Yavin. Willman's like on a stretcher. So the medics come. They take him out. Andor's like, be careful. And he tells Drina, he's like, go with him. When Andor gets off, the lieutenant guy, or what, the dude in charge that was angry when they were leaving, he's like, he asks if it's bad, and Andor's like, no. He's like, it's clean. He's young. And the dude asks, he's like, who's his nurse? And Andor's like, she survived the Gorman massacre. She'll fit right in. And then the guy's like, we are not going to log this in. any of this. That's the plan. Gold Squadron will deliver the senator to Yavin. She's making a speech. We need it broadcast as far as possible. It's the results that matter. And Andor, he just kind of like shrugs, starts walking away. And then the dude's like, we can listen in my office if you'd like. Andor's like, I heard her before. It's like, there's a dead KX unit backed up inside. And the dude's like, KX droid? And he's like, I think we got all the pieces. And he walks away. He goes home. Bix comes out of the back room. They like stare at each other. Then she makes him some tea or something like that. Says that, he needs to get some sleep. He's like, I'm done, Bix. And she's like, have your tea. He's like, I'm serious. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I've done what I can. And I've done a lot. But I want this right here. I want to be with you. He's like, I'm going to talk to Draven tomorrow. We'll leave before it gets too complicated. We'll find someplace quiet. There's still places to go. We have what we need. And then he's like, why aren't you saying anything? And she's like, I'm listening. And he's like, the only special thing about me is luck. And I've overplayed my hand already. Nothing's worth more than this. I mean it. And she's like, I know you do. Next morning, Andor wakes up and Bix isn't next to him because he like kind of reaches. And then he sits up, he looks for her, calls out to her, kind of looks outside on, she's not around. Then she left him a video message. She's like, my love, you're sleeping now. You look so peaceful. I want to be brave, but I can't. If I was brave, I would stay and do this in person. But I know you, and you just talk me around, and I've been thinking about this too long to let that happen. I have to leave. I have to go away. I'm not sure where or for how long. I just know that I can't stay here with you now. I believe what you said. It is a choice. It just can't be me. I can't be the reason that you leave here. If you ever gave this up for me, I'd never forgive myself. We have to win. We have to beat them. And I believe you have purpose in making that happen. I need to believe that. So I'm choosing for the both of us. I'm choosing the rebellion. So he starts sprinting like to the ship area. This flagman yells at him. He's like, you can't stand there. It's like, we're waiting on a freighter. You got to keep this area clear. And he yells, he's like, the outbound, the transport, where are they? And the flagman's like, everything that's leaving went this morning. So then we see like more from the video. She's like, and when it's done, when it's over, and we've won, we can do all the things we ever wanted. Everything that we'd known we'd miss. He's like, I'll find you. So Andor sits, then we see him at a table at his hut. So it's like, wait, did he already run? Is he not running? Because then at the landing pad, a voice calls, Captain Andor, they're looking for you. They're getting ready to power up the droid you brought in. The KX unit? So this guy, Drolla, says that, so it either works or it doesn't. He's like, we can tweak endlessly once it's stable. It's really just a question of whether the Cortex swap is rejected or not. You'll hear a lot of blather about reprogramming, which makes it sound as though it's a problem solved behind a console, but that's nonsense. Frankly, it's really all about impulse suppression, which is an entirely engineering and wiring issue. We have some protective goggles here. And Andor's like, I'll take a weapon. And the dude's like, you may wish to take a step back. And he's like, turn it on. And the guy's like, it's just, I'm not sure that's safe. He raises a blaster and points to it. And like, you hear it turn on. He's like, hit the switch. And the guy's like, very well. 3, 2, 1. There's like some electronic beeping. It like twitches, it sparks, it's whirring, and it stops. Then K2SO is like, hello. If I've offended you, I apologize. He's looking right at Andor. If not, I'd appreciate you pointing that elsewhere. And Andor just like stares at him. And that is the end of episode 9. So we finally see that was K2SO that he brought. But it's interesting. It's like, how does he keep him? Because you would think the rebellion would want to make use of it, or I don't know. So, but that is since that was episode 9. We have 3 more episodes left. So the next week, we're going to jump a year. So we'll have to see what happens. But I guess now we know, and this is one thing I was worried about. So we know why Bix wasn't involved with Rogue One. I thought, and it could still be wrong, but I thought something happens to her, like she gets killed or something like that, because I saw a headline, stupid people spoiling things, and now we know why Bix isn't in Rogue One, or something like that. I obviously didn't click it, but yeah. So it's interesting to see. So now Mon, I guess she basically gave up the Senate so she can lead the rebellion. So we're getting close. We're almost there. Three more episodes. All right, now Murderbot, Season 1, Episode 4, Escape Velocity Protocol. I feel like my throat is giving out again. I think the tea was working, the throat tea. Never mind, you don't care. So, Murderbot, I'm enjoying this. Like I said, I don't know how this plays if you're interested in hearing about it, but it's interesting because I don't know where it's going. And I've said this before about other shows. There's something about like the half hour format that you really just boom 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 you get into it, and I think there's something to be said about that, because it just, there's not a lot of filler, because it's like, okay, we have this, we only have this many episodes, so we got to get to the story. So it's kind of interesting. So it starts off like we're at Threshold Pass Fabrication Center, Corporation Rim. We see the people working like in a factory. One worker asked the other if they saw the new Sanctuary Moon episode, because that's the show that Murderbot, the second unit, likes. And the dude's like, how can you watch that? Because it's a guy and a lady. So he's like, how can you watch that garbage? He's like, are you still making new ones? And she's like, yeah, I love them. She's like, they help me fall asleep. Then the foreman calls. There's new orderings, or they need everyone to work an extra shift. So there's grumbling and stuff like that. But then the foreman's like, stop complaining. The more hours you work, the sooner you finish your indenture. So they're all indentured workers here. And they're like making flesh and stuff for sec units. They're making the security robots or whatever. So the guy's like, oh man, it's like, I still got 6 years left. He says, sometimes I think I'm not going to make it. And she's like, well, you're lucky. She's like, I still have 12 of my 20 to do. And he's like, oh, poop. He's like, you're definitely not going to make it. And she's like, thanks. So it's crazy. 20 years. Oh, man. So then our sec unit starts narrating. Sec unit factories are really wonderful places, much better than human hospitals. Sometimes on the serials I watch, they'll show the inside of a nursery filled with infants, slobbering miniature humans, randomly weeping and defecating. So creepy. It's like, it must be disturbing for humans, knowing their operating system is just a random shuffling of DNA. So then some others that we're seeing work, they're like, it's like some sort of computer console or something like that. There's like a power outage. And one guy's like, oh, it's been glitching all week. He's like, they need to shut it down and, debug the system. But the coworker's like, those cheap a-holes, they don't want to take the time to go offline. And the first guy's like, oh, it's not like it's dangerous or anything. It's just a heavily armed sec units that we're making, and the systems go back online. So the sec unit continues. He's like, it was a relief to know that when you were made, there was, rigorous quality control. So then we see someone's like working on an arm, like putting them in bins, when they're complete. The foreman's like, what the heck is this? Like, whose poopy ass work is this? So this guy sheepishly, admits that it's him. He's like, should I start over? And the foreman's like, no, it's usable. He's like, just get your act together. He's like, take some pride in your work. I couldn't really tell what was wrong with it, and what was the point of that. But then sec unit's like, yeah, take some pride in your work. It's like, you wouldn't want to fudge up and produce a chronically anxious, depressed Murderbot. So unless it's part of him, I don't know. And then in a section where like the heads are being assembled, this guy asks Super, he's like, why do y'all look different? The faces. And she's like, I don't know. But then after he's just sitting there, then she's like, if one goes rogue or some poop, it's easier to track it down. And the guy's like, that makes sense. And he's like, how often do they go rogue? And she's like, all the time. She's like, don't you watch the news feeds? Sometimes it comes back and kills the trainee who helped make it. And she's like, like does a slit the throat gesture. He chuckles. He's like, yeah. It's like, right. And then he like touches his neck and he looks at some heads behind him in jars. And sec unit says that he wonders if humans know how weird they are. So then in the present, he's like, then again, sometimes it wasn't so great being a sentient construct either. So he's being dragged by the other sec unit. So they're at the other habitat on the other side of the planet or whatever. He got attacked. So he's being dragged. He's like, my mobility was fudged. He's like, it was down to 0, and my memory kept dumping my most used data into me, whatever was on heaviest rotation, which obviously meant that we get the Sanctuary Moon intro. And I get it, it's supposed to be funny and quirky and stuff, but yeah, that's not my favorite part of the show. Even though John Cho is like the captain of the ship, Clark Gregg is like this other character, but it's like, okay. And they keep referencing it from time to time. But so that the intro is kind of glitchy and stuff like that. So the other sec unit lifts him and like slams him on his table. And outside, Rathy, comms. He's like, where's, Mensa? Pin Lee says that she's like, I don't know. She's like, she was right behind us. Rathy tries hailing her, says that they're getting worried there. The others are starting to freak out a little bit. And Pin Lee frantically, she's like, Dr. Mensa, it's like, we should be getting out of here. The sec unit said, and then we see Mensa, she's elsewhere, like by some trees. And she's like, clear the emergency channel. I'm trying to ping the sec unit. And sec unit narrates to us. He's like, ping all you want. He's like, I couldn't answer. So he's lying face down on the table. He's like, maybe this was how sec units died. You lose function, go offline, but parts of you just keep working. Your organic pieces kept alive by the fading energy of your power cell. He's like, why didn't it just kill me? So we see, Mensa's alone. She's like, she talks to herself. She's like, it's just a machine. It's just a fudging machine. So Pin Lee runs up to her, and Mensa's like, he's like, get back to the hopper. And Pin Lee's like, okay, forgive me, all due respect. He's like, you get back to the fudging hopper. And Mensa gives her a look, and then in her comm, she's like, sec unit, can you read me? Pin Lee's like, it cannot read you, okay? It's like, we've been pinging it. It can't read any of us. It's probably dead. She's like, come on, I told you, or it told you to take off if we lost contact. Let's go. Mensa won't move. And Pin Lee's like, and it's a sec unit. So how about when it comes to security, let's listen to it. Let's let it do its job. It's not human. It's not part of our team. And Mensa's like, Pin Lee, that's not it. It's like, I know what I have to do. The thing is, I'm afraid. And Pin Lee's like, good, me too. He's like, can we go? And Mensa's like, Pin Lee, get back to the hopper. That's an order. And then Pin Lee just like stares at her, kind of like in shock. And she's like, not cool. So sec unit's like, I wanted to scream. It's like my voice box was offline. I felt like a balloon floating above myself, filled with agony because my pain sensor override also wasn't online. He's like, poop. He's like, a combat override module? That's how they controlled the Deltfall unit. And if they got that in me, I would be under their control too. It's like, I guess they had plans for me. I need a few moments to get powered up again. So I improvised. And let me just say, the situation was desperate. So he starts singing the theme song of the show. The other sec unit like kind of stops and is like confused. And then our sec unit, Murderbot, he's like, oh, it's actually working. He's like, it was completely hypnotized by my beautiful voice. That did it. That's not it. So then he's able to move, and he like punches it in the gut, because he's still on the table. So he hits it. He gets up. He starts fighting. The other one starts shooting. Tries shooting at him because I guess he doesn't have his guns on his arms or something like whatever. So they're fighting, but then the other one finally, it almost looks like it's even, but then the other one finally manages to get the combat override module on the back of his neck. So he's like, in about 10 minutes, I was going to be under their total control. But the first thing that little fudger would do would be to hack my system and cover its own tracks. It's like, I wouldn't even know it was installed. It's like, what did it have in mind for me? And what would happen to my useless clients who are now completely defenseless? Then the other sec unit gets impaled from behind by this like drilling tool. It's Dr. Mensa. And the sec unit's like, thought you agreed to take the hopper and leave. And she's like, she throws up. And he's like, is that a mining drill? And she's like, oh yeah. He's like, I thought I needed a bigger weapon, so I improvised. Then he says to us, he narrates, there was something I had to tell her, something important, some kind of danger? So he can't remember that the module thing's on his neck now. She's like, are you okay? You have taken a lot of damage. He narrates, I couldn't figure out what it was. And she's like, okay, here we go. And he's like, don't touch, Dr. Mensa. Your actions are a violation of security protocol. And he's like, was that it? He's like, I am contractually obligated to record and report this to the company. And Mensa's like, okay, can you walk? And then Murderbot's like, Dr. Mensa, your actions are a violation of security protocol. I'm contractually obligated, and etc. And she's like, yes, you already said that. And he's like, it was in my buffer. It's like the rest of my brain was scrambled. He repeats it a third time. And she's like, yeah, I know. So they start walking out, going down the hall. But then the other sec unit like twitches on the floor. So it's not completely out. Pin Lee enters a hopper. Rathy's like, where's Mensa? And Pin Lee's like, she ordered me to go back to the hopper, okay? And Rathy's like, she ordered you? She can't order you to do anything. Arata's like, I think she can. She is our leader. Rathy's like, yeah, on preservation, but here, she's just another crew member. Pinley's like, yeah, the one who leads us. Rathy's like, but where was the consensus? I mean, it does kind of go against our whole thing. Pinley's like, she's very intimidating, okay? Arata's like, babe, you're just as intimidating. And Pinley's like, thanks. Rathy's like, well, what do we do now? Pinley's like, we wait for her, I guess. She should not have even come on this mission with us. She's way too valuable. You know, it's actually a stupid rule that everyone has to volunteer in missions. Then Arata's like, you don't mean that. It's a very cool rule. Rathy's like, well, what if something happens to her? Pinley's like, everyone will hate us. I will hate us. And Rathy's like, yeah, okay, fudge this. He gets up, goes to he grabs a blaster. And Arata's like, you're holding it wrong. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, is that better? He's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a dick. And they're like, it's fine. He's like, no, I heard myself as soon as I said it. It's like, I'm going anyways. And Arata's like, that's not cool. And Pinley's like, you're being very macho. It's disgusting. And Rathy's like, you're both wonderful people. I mean that. And he's like waving the blast around as he's talking. So they ducked her like, hey. He's like, oh, sorry. So, and he, remember, because he didn't have weapons training, so he doesn't know what he's doing. Mensa tells the sec unit, he's like, come on. And he's like, my input socket felt weird. So he reaches for the back of his neck, but his display says access denied. And he's like, something stopped me. What was it? And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know. And then he's like, wow. Because she's like, hey, she's like, hold on to me. And then he's like, she was protecting me. It was starting to occur to me that Dr. Mensa might actually be, and then he says to her, or he says out loud, an intrepid galactic explorer. And she's like, what? And he whispers, Dr. Mensa might be an intrepid galactic explorer. So he's not meaning to say that, but he doesn't know what's going on. And she's like, okay, I don't know where you get that idea. And then he narrates, it all made sense at the time because my system was in complete chaos. So embarrassing. When he just starts kneeling, he's like, I really was losing my marbles. So he envisions himself on a show. Mensa's like calling him as he stands, he looks around. And then she's there too. She's the captain now. Then he starts like talking to real world and she gets him moving. And he's like, yes, captain. Then they hear a loud thud. He's like, what is that? So he goes back to the show and like one of the other crew members like, incoming hostile. So the others in the real world, the other second unit comes down the hall and starts shooting. So he gets Mensa out of the way. They duck down this other hall. And he's like, that unit was impressive. So Arata asks, he's like, what if something happens to Rathy? And Pinley's like, well, then our contract is null and void because they have that threesome contract with him. And he's like, but she's like, I don't want anything to happen to him. I just think he's being so, you know? And Arata's like, yeah, I do. Yeah, you're right. And Pinley's like, hey, he will come back. And then maybe we should talk about our contract. Arata's like, it's just temporary. And Pinley's like, so is life. And Arata's like, I hope he doesn't do anything stupid. So Rathy's made it to the other habitat. He like ducks down behind some bushes and rocks. He like radios. He's like, I'm about to breach the Deltfall habitat. And Pinley's, she like caught off guard. She like fumbles the mic. She's like, what? He's like, yeah, just one question. He's like, the sort of dial thingy on the left hand side of the weapon, the glowy thing. Yeah, what is that? And Pinley's like, that controls the energy pulse. And he's like, right. He's like, okay, got it. And Pinley's like, keep it at medium. He's like, yeah, I knew that. And the thing on the other side, he's like, that's the safety. He's like, the safety, yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you. Wish me luck. Then Mensa radios, can anyone read me? We need help. And Rathy's like, I read you. He's like, I read you. He runs up to that habitat. He's like, help is on the way. Hits a button for the door. He's like, gets ready with the blaster. Nothing happens. He goes, hits the door again. The door won't open. Inside, the second unit's like, I suggest you abandon the ship. I will stay on to fight the raiders. So he thinks he's still on the show. She's like, what? He's like, go. And she's like, what? She's like, we're not abandoning any fudging ship. And she's like, come on. But then there's more shooting behind him. So Pinley asks Rath, he's like, what's going on? And he doesn't answer. So she curses and she's like, we should have gone. Rada tells her to wait. She's like, I have an idea. And she takes out two things. I was like, what is that? Like two little hand things. Mensa and the sec unit, they enter this room. He's like, I should have been ready to fight, but my threat assessment module was telling me nothing was wrong. That's because he's got the thing on. So the other sec unit starts pounding on a door, and sec unit's like, hello? And she's like, get away from the door. But then the door gets like knocked over, it lands on top of him on the sec unit. Mensa manages to blast the other sec unit. He flies back out in the hall. So she hits him like dead center. Rathy's still trying to get inside. Then he turns the dial up on a blaster. He gets ready to shoot, but then a door further back on the habitat gets blasted open, and he kind of ducks into the doorway. It's Mensa and Sec Unit. Sec Unit narrates. He's like, "It was about a minute until the override module had full control over me. Until then, it had me standing around like a moron." So Rathi calls out the Mensa. He hugs her, and as she hits him on the side, she's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm here to save you." She hits him again. He's like, "Stop hitting me." And then he sees the other Sec Unit. He's like, "Duck." So it shoots at them. And Sec Unit's like, "It kept missing, like the crappy shock troopers on Strife in the Galaxy." So Rathi aims and shoots, but the recoil smacks the blaster in his forehead, knocks him out. And then Sec Unit's like, "It had to be on purpose, but why?" So Mensa turns around. Sec Unit just stands there. And then the other looks at them. And the Sec Unit displays says, "Clients equal hostiles. Acquire targets." Then he's like, "Of course. It wanted me to kill them so it could leave the scene of the massacre." Then it gets impaled again. This time by, at first I thought it was like the hopper landing gear. It's like something from the bottom of the hopper. They lift up, and if it's a landing gear, it's like trying to retract up into the ship, but the other Sec Unit's stuck on it, and then it gets pushed off the gear, falls back to the ground, and then they smash it. They just land on top of it, and it's just totally smashed. Rathi wakes up. He raises his arms, "Yeah!" He cheers. Sec Unit falls to his knees. Mensa runs him and just "You're safe." Then he looks at her and he's like, "I hate eye contact." He said that out loud. Mensa's like, "What is it?" He reaches back. He's able to pull off the module. He just looks at it, smashes it between his finger and thumb. Pindley and Arata come out. They look at the smashed Sec Unit. They're like, "Ooh." Rathi waves a gun. It's like, "You were right." It's like, "It really should have kept on medium." They're like, "Stop pointing that." Arata asks if everyone's okay. Mensa's like, "Yeah, but something's wrong with Sec Unit." His display says combat override, acquire targets. And it targets Pindley, and he narrates, "It was too late. The combat override module had done its work. The program was buffering." Arata's like, "Well, we should get on board." And then Sec Unit's like, "I had a data carrier inserted into me. It's almost done downloading instructions. There's only one way to stop it." And then he narrates, he's like, "Why was I dancing around a word? Maybe because I thought she didn't want to hear it." So then he says to Mensa, he's like, "You need to kill me." And Mensa's like, No, we're not doing that." It's like, Garathan will fix you. We'll just get you back to the habitat." He's like, "There's no time. I will kill all of you in a few seconds. Do it. Do it." Mensa shakes her head. Then he reaches, grabs her blaster. And then he thinks, he's like, "It was going to look like they'd been killed by a vicious rogue Sec Unit, and I had no choice in the matter. Well, fudge that." He's like, "I'm sorry." He aims the blaster at his chest, and they're like, "No!" He goes down. And that's the end of the episode. So I guess that's it. That's the end of the show. He's dead. But obviously, he took more damage. I mean, I can't speak on knowing what he shot, but he obviously shot something that would take him down. Because, we saw the other Sec Unit was impaled and it kept moving. So if he's trying to stop himself from killing them, he had to know where he should shoot in order to stop himself. So the question is, can they take him and repair him? Because they got the med bay, what fixed him before. But it'll be interesting to see what Garathan's not going to want to do that. And I'm kind of curious, how heavy is he? Normal weight? Is he really heavy because he's machinery? But he's got I don't know. These are just little things I think about. But yeah, that's the episode. So the other thing, who's trying to do this? Because it can't be the other Sec Unit. Someone's got to be controlling the Sec Unit, wanting to kill them. And was it the company? Because what happened to the people who were at that habitat? Because the place was trashed. They were all killed. So is the company trying to kill them all off? More reasons to continue watching, I guess. All right, then first movie feature, Bring Her Back. So this movie, so yeah, it came out May 29th in Australia. I think it was May 30th here. Yeah. It was directed by Danny and Michael Philippou. Danny wrote it with Bill Hinsman. And these two guys, they did a movie, Talk to Me. So these are A24 movies. Now, the weird thing, somehow I completely missed Talk to Me. I think it came out 2023. And I thought I saw that it was like one of the most successful A23 movies. Maybe because it had like a really low budget and it made up for that. So maybe that, makes it successful. Because I would think like Midsummer or Heredity, some of these other movies, Heretic, with bigger actors that, more people would see this. Bring Her Back. There's no actors that we know in the United States. I don't know if there's any known actors at all. But what's weird, everyone's been raving about this movie. They're talking about it. It is a phenomenal movie. I mean, it's amazing. The Rotten Tomato, the critics, it's at 89%, and in the popcorn meters, 79%. So people are enjoying it. Critic consensus: a domestic nightmare that draws the most profound scares from Sally Hawkins' deranged performance. Bring Her Back is exemplary chiller that reaffirms directors Danny and Michael Philippou as modern masters of horror. But what I do want to say is it's not really a horror movie. It's definitely a thriller. I mean, it is disturbing, and it blows you away. But what blows me away is the budget for this movie was $15 million, and right now I think it's only made like 18.7. I was thinking it's like oh, this movie's going to make so much more movie because I hear like everyone talking about it. I saw it last weekend. I went on Saturday, so I saw it on the 7th. I was like, I'm going to go see another movie. It's like, I'm just going to do it, even though my Saturdays are usually busy. And it was in a teeny tiny theater at my theater. And, there's a few other people. But, I'd heard everyone talking about this, so that's why it's like, I should see this movie. So I'm just surprised that it hasn't made more money. It's not playing in a lot of theaters, but I really feel like people should see this movie. I mean, there's different reasons. It's going to be hard to watch. This is definitely not a movie for everyone. Like, my wife and daughter would hate this movie. When I always talk to the secretaries in the office, and I always let them know like what movie I saw and stuff like that. They would hate this movie. There's no way they're going to see this movie. So it's hard to watch. But I feel like if you're capable, if you can handle some dark stuff, some gruesome stuff, or horror-ish, whatever, suspense, you should see it, and you should catch it while it's still in the theater. And the reason I say that, I was like, oh man, I kind of wanted to write an article about this, like why you should see this movie. It is not like the greatest movie of all time. It is not like the greatest movie, the best movie of the year. But I feel like it's an important movie because this is, it's a small little independent movie. It's a $15 million budget. And, even though A24 is on the rise, they're getting, a name for themselves. But I feel like it's important to see this because the main thing is this is not part of a franchise. This is not a reboot. This is not a remake. This is something original. And I feel like we need to support stuff like this. Otherwise, we're going to get more Disney live action remakes. And again, I don't have a problem with some of those. I absolutely do not have a problem with all the Marvel movies. I want more. But a lot of people are tired of these things. And, people complain that it's all sequels, franchise stuff, spin-offs, remakes, reboots, all this stuff. We don't get a whole lot of original stuff. And the main reason, I think, is because it's a risk. When you have something like this, even the title, Bring Her Back, it's like, well, what does that mean? And, you look at the poster. The poster's, a little disturbing. No, big name actors, like I said, for us in the United States. So what is the incentive to watch this? If you saw Talk to Me, that might be some incentive. And, I'm going to be honest. I watched Talk to Me the Friday night before. I was like, I never heard of this. It was on Netflix. I should probably watch this before I watch this because apparently, everyone loved that movie. I thought that movie was fine. I definitely like this movie better. They're maybe going to do a sequel to Talk to Me. Talk to Me is worth watching as well. Again, just the fact that it's a small budget movie, but this movie definitely amped things up. I mean, it's just it's crazy, and the main thing is it's about kind of like grief, like what people will do, and it gets dark and twisted. maybe like some cult stuff, whatever, just weird behavior. And it's like, what is going on here? And that's, yeah, there's some disturbing stuff going on here. So without giving away to, major things, we got this like brother and sister. Their father dies, and the girl, she's visually impaired. She's gonna get put into foster home. The kid, I guess he's like 17. He's kind of got a shaky past. He got into some trouble before, and the foster, the lady, she didn't want him. She just wanted a girl, and he's like, but we can't be separate, because he's also hoping in 3 months he'll be able to become her legal guardian, and he doesn't want to separate her. He's always looking after her and everything. They're able to convince the lady to bring him in. This lady's kind of weird, and there's this other kid there too. This other kid is the kid on the poster. The other kid's kind of feral. Kid doesn't talk. Kid is just, there's something disturbing about this other kid. It's kind of scary. So it's like, what is going on? And she's like very doting with the girl, and then we find out, I don't remember if it was a daughter or another foster kid who died. So, and the room is just the way she left it. So that's where the girl's going to stay. And she wants to do all this stuff. She wants to take care of her. But there's something off about her. And that's all I'm going to say. But then things get dark and twisted. And it's just some of the stuff, like with that other kid, like, oh my God. And I can't even describe like stuff that happens. It's just, but it's not, like I said, it's not a horror movie. There's no like mystical beast. There's no Jason or Michael Myers or anything like that. And it's kind of disturbing, but I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, it's just, it's weird. I mean, you'll definitely be on the edge of your seats. There was times when I was watching, and I love dark movies. I always joke, because sometimes my wife's like you always want to watch like dark and depressing movies, and I was like, she's like, life's can be hard as it is. I was like, yeah, you watch these movies, you realize that things aren't as bad as they could be. That's my joke. But as I'm watching this movie, there's times where I'm like, man, I want this movie to be over. I was like, I want to go home. I don't want to watch this anymore. Yeah, I would never walk out on a movie. But it was just getting weird. I was like, I don't want anymore. I'm ready. And it's just because it's hard to watch, and it's just like, what's going to happen next? What is happening? What are they doing? Where is it? So I definitely recommend this movie. And like I said, if it's still playing in a theater near you, you should go support it. Some people are like, I don't want to pay $15-20 or whatever. Go to a matinee if you can. But we need to support these smaller movies so we get more original stuff, because this is just something. And just keep in mind, it is not, it's not something light and cheerful. It's going to be dark, but it's just amazing, just from a filmmaker. Sometimes I kind of pull myself out just looking how they filmed this, just like the location, the lighting, just everything. All the leaves on the ground, and it's just like, yeah, it's just, I really enjoyed it. It was an experience. So I definitely suggest you watch that. And now the main movie feature is how to train a dragon, not how to train your dragon. Yeah, so this is interesting. I saw the original movie, so it was 2010. I'm trying to think saw it with my daughter and everything, and she loved the movie, and she's watched them like so many times, because when I saw it, she wasn't able to go with me, and I was like, have you seen, are you familiar with the story? Because I wanted to mention one part, and she's like, yeah. She's like, I watch it all the time, and I think she said she liked the second one better or something like that. So, she's still invested in the franchise and everything like that, and I don't think I've watched it since 2010. I don't know if I own it. I was trying to think, it's like, did I buy this on DVD or anything? Maybe. Yeah, because my DVDs aren't super accessible. My Blu-rays kind of. But anyways, so when I'll be honest, when I was like,
do we really need this movie? It's like, why are we, live action, live action? Why are we like remaking everything? But then one time I went to the theater, I forget what it was. There was like a little before the movie clip talking about, the Dean DeBois, I guess. He's talking about, because he did the original one and how he wanted to bring it to life type of thing. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's not like an immediate like, oh, let's cash grab, let's try to remake it. And I'm sure there's some incentive with that. Hopefully, it's a successful franchise. So it's like, hey, what's the next logical step? Let's make it live action. We can make another franchise. Because they've already. That's the crazy thing. They've already said there's a sequel happening. They said, let's see, on April 2nd, so before the movie even was released, at CinemaCon, they said that they're already making a sequel to come out June 11th, 2027. So they're, I guess, very optimistic about how this is going to do. It's projected to have a domestic opening of 70 to 80 million. So that's just domestic. So not worldwide. I don't know how many, if it's opening everywhere, because sometimes there's limitations. The movie has a $150 million budget. So far, as I record this, it's early in the weekend, it's only made 15.7 million. I mean, I would like to see more. I did enjoy it. So when like I said, I was like, why are they making this? Like, do we really need this? And it was really, they did a really good job. Because they got Gerard Butler. He's the dad, the king or leader, or whatever you want to call him. I mean, the main thing for me is like Toothless is so darn adorable. I mean, and just as adorable as he was in the original movie. I mean, it's there's something about him and just seeing, and there's a lot of emotion when you see like this, just a struggle and the dangers. And I will say this, so I don't forget. I don't think I'm going to be all over the place with this because again, I'm so out of it. I'm so stuffed up. I'm so lightheaded. My throat is just gone. But I don't think that this is a movie for everyone. I think like if you watched the original, and I don't remember how true. I think it's pretty true to it. I don't remember exactly, but the end gets pretty intense. Especially, I mean, it's one thing if it's animated, because kids hopefully can see it. Oh, that's not real. But when you're doing live action and you got these big, intense, action scenes, it could be a bit much. And when I saw it on Thursday, I chose a smaller theater instead of like the really big theater, one of the big theaters, just because, I'm hoping, oh, maybe there'll be less people and all that. And there was some people with kids, but I don't know how old the kid was. But there was one kid that was just like out of his seat all the time. And it was annoying. It's like, okay, if your kid is restless, if your kid can't sit in the seat, one, either don't take it in the movie, or two, maybe this movie is not holding your kid's attention. I mean, I don't know. But the kid kept, he was a few rows, and it was a little kind of distracting. He's a few rows in front of me, and he would just go to the aisle, whatever, and back. Okay, that's fine. Maybe would talk a little bit. That's fine. A little distracting. But then, like, towards the end, he, like, comes up in my row, and he walks down, and I was about to tell the kid, like, go sit down. Or, go sit down, kid. I don't know if he would have heard me, because there's a sound from the movie and everything. But it's like, what are you doing? It's like, excuse me, I paid money to watch this movie. I didn't pay to have your kid walking by me, in front of me, or, blocking my view. But it might be a little intense. And I don't know if it was the same. There was a parent that got up and left, and I didn't, because I was trying to focus on the movie. And so I don't know if it's like, oh, I'm leaving, come with me, or I don't remember if the kid left with her. So, but it's a good movie. And, there's a little bit of controversy. So we got Nico Parker. She plays Astrid. And some people are upset with that because Astrid is blonde hair and blue-eyed. And if you know who Nico Parker is, she is not blonde hair and blue-eyed. She was great in this. And I don't remember how it was in the movie, but we see some other, they're not all blonde-haired, blue-eyed people in this village, because there's people that came from ships, and they made it there, they lived there. So, yeah, Vikings are from a certain region, but why can't you have other people that end up there and adapt or become part of that community or whatever you want to call it? But she was great, and I didn't realize when I first saw. The other thing is because Dean DuBois, I'm assuming he had a big role in casting her. If he did the original movie and he's like overseeing this, and if he's picking her, that there's something to be said there. So she must have done like a crazy great audition, and she is amazing in this movie. And if you're not like, wait, who are you talking? Who is this? She was also in the first episode of The Last of Us, and she was Pedro Pascal's daughter. And watching that first episode, that kind of broke me. I was just, because I'm thinking about my daughter and everything, and just her performance. I mean, it was just amazing, and different performance, but here, she does a good job, and the guy playing, Hiccup, it's just everything is just really good, and just. As I was going to watch this, I was like, oh, this is quote unquote live action, but it's like, how much is CG? You're watching the beginning, you're seeing like all this like mountains or islands and rock formations and waves. I was like, I think they did film it in Iceland. I could be wrong about that. I think I said that at the end. But it's like, are they really in location, or is this like, just a CG backdrop? When they're in the village and they're at the different huts or whatever, is it on a set, or is it all, green screen, blue screen, and then just CG'd in? Obviously, the dragons aren't real. Spoiler. So it's just, I think it's funny when you call it. I mean, the same thing with like Lion King. I have not seen the live action Lion King, because it's not live action. It's all CG, and it just seems kind of silly. But this is different because you do have live action actors mixed in with everything. And, so as kind of negative as I was, not negative enough that I was going to, like, I'm not going to see this movie. But I think they did a really good job. And whether this opens up the story, the franchise for a new audience, I don't know, whatever. Hopefully they'll go back and watch the original as well and enjoy those. I think they did a really good job. And I was just really impressed. Just the visuals, flying through the clouds over the mountain, and there's a lot of like. So that's the other reason why you want to see this on a big screen, because when you see them flying on the back of a dragon, I mean, it's crazy, and they do a good job. I mean, I can appreciate the effort and just the movie magic that goes into making these, and it's really, really cool. And I think we're in a, like we're very fortunate that we have this technology that we can enjoy this stuff, and I feel like people should appreciate it and support it. So you should definitely check it out on the big screen. A lot of people are like, well, I'll wait till it's streaming somewhere or whatever. And even if you have a big TV at home, there's something about being in a theater, apart from the kids that sometimes are annoying. Just being in a big theater, the big massive sound system, all that. I mean, it's an experience, and I feel like these movies should be experienced and not just watched. And we need to support the studios. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're corporates, they make so much money, whatever, but I don't need our money, and so it's okay if I pirate it. It's like, no, they need to be successful, they need to make a profit, otherwise we're not going to get new stuff. Then they're just going to make, safe stuff that's not great, not original. And not that this is entirely original, it is a remake, but I'm down for seeing more. So I think you should watch that. And I think that's it. I think I'm just so done. I'm so stuffed up. I'm so miserable. I just want to crawl under, I don't know what, and just, that is going to be it. So thank you for listening. Thanks to Andrew Loken for being such a massive supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Blah, blah, blah. If you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck.
What is going to be next week? So we'll definitely have more Murderbot, more Andor. Maybe, I don't know if we'll have more than one, because I got to do work. I'm switching classrooms stupidly. Not stupidly, but so I got so much stuff in my classroom, so much stuff on the walls. It's gonna be crazy, but it'll give me something to do, I guess. The movie feature next week is, I guess, gonna be 28 years later. So I should probably watch the other ones. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to watch the other ones. Yeah, we'll see about that. So that's gonna be next movie. And then can't remember if anything else is starting up. I hope not, because I have so much stuff to do. But there's something starting soon. I can't think. Ironheart. I think it's at the end of the month, and I think they're dropping. I forgot if I mentioned it before. I think they're dropping 3 episodes the first week. Ugh, why? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling much better than I am. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope you have good plans for the summer. I hope you remember, be good to each other.